Welcome everybody. My name is Rob Reams and this is Scott Kemerer and we are Malleus. Thanks for coming out tonight, and for those of you on the live stream, thanks for joining us as well. That piece was called Udekrep Akabrad. It was by Avner Dorman, and it was originally written for a percussion duo called Percussion Duo, and it also uses darbukas. Those are their silver drums, the hourglass-shaped drums that we're using. And the name of the piece, Udekrep Akabrad, is Percussion Darbuka spelled backwards. It took us a little while to figure that out ourselves, but that is what that is. So tonight you're going to hear a little bit of everything. We have a pretty eclectic program for you tonight. We have some melodic stuff like you just heard. We also have a djembe piece that Scott's going to premiere tonight, and some snare drum, a little bit of everything. The next piece that I'm going to play is a solo piece, and it is for solo snare drum. And I'm just going to help guide your listening a little bit as you listen to it tonight. So this piece is about different playing zones on the snare drum. So there's playing on the rim, there's playing near the rim, there's playing in the center, there's some roll work, there's changing the playing zones, and there's one point that sounds like a drum set even, just coming out of the snare drum. So I hope you enjoy this. This is Peasant Concerto by Shivkovic.
before we continue, I really wanted to take a moment now to thank quite a lot of people for making this happen. Most importantly, my wife, our families, for the patience that they've had as we prepared all of this music on our, every Sunday morning we met at Rob's house for hours and hours. So thank you for all of your support. To my colleagues and our colleagues for their support and kind words as we went through this journey together. There's another person that I'd like to thank specifically, and he's actually up in the balcony. My wife always jokes around that I've never read a book from front to back, and it's kind of true. But I read a book once, maybe the first couple chapters, but what's interesting is one of these books that I read, the first sentence in the first chapter says, number one, it's not about you. And I think there's someone in this room that needs to be recognized because he has shown in the last month that he has served us amazingly, and that person is Zach Karcher. Can we have a round of applause for him, please? He's up in the booth now. He took care of our streaming. He let us use his van. Rob's truck broke down, and we used his van and with all of our gigs. And the man just keeps on going, being helpful. So I wanted to take a moment and give a shout out to him, to the IUP faculty for their help and their equipment for our streaming and allowing us to use this hall so we can make music together. The next piece that I'm going to play for you is titled Flying. And what I wanted to do, as you can see even from our first piece, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is pretty intense. So I wanted to choose a marimba solo that was more like dessert for your ears, if you will. Feel free to close your eyes as I'm playing. I will not be offended by that. It's meant to give you a sense of calm. Also, it was written by Chin Ching Lin, and it was made popular by a very famous artist, marimba artist, named Ludwig Albert. So please enjoy Flying.
piece is entitled Lunation, and it's by Chad Heine, who is a graduate of IUP. And after IUP, he went down to LSU and studied with Brett Dietz down there. And he has had a life previously as a band director. And a couple of years ago, he decided to go full out arranger, composer, and he composes for various marching bands and so forth around the country. And he's had some commissions, commissioned in Europe recently. So he's found himself a lot of his success in the compositional realm. One of his new pieces is the one we're playing tonight, Lunation. There's two movements. It's entitled New Moon and Old Moon, and this is dedicated to his wife, Nikki. Scott's getting set up for the next piece, so I'll just give a little overview of what you're about to hear, and then he'll come up and give you the details. So there's a genre of piece written for both wind instruments, string instruments, percussion instruments, for solo instrument and tape. Meaning tape by tape, meaning some kind of pre-recorded accompaniment. Although this happens in all different types of instruments, it seems like it happens more and more in percussion than anything else. I think a lot of percussion we end up playing solo, maybe, I don't know, more than anybody else, but it certainly seems like there's a lot of solo literature out there for percussion. So Scott, in looking for something to perform on the recital, went through a couple of ideas, and then he decided to write his own piece. He had some thoughts about basically what he wanted to do, and he settled on a piece for djembe and taped accompaniment. And when he's ready, he'll come up and give you a little more of a description about it.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, so I decided what I wanted to do was a multi-piece with tape. They call it tape, but really what it is software that you can record your own instruments, right, using microphones, or what they have is like a bank of sounds that you can play with. So think of it like a digital artist, and all the paints are in there, and you can just do whatever you want with sound, right? So the piece is called Diminishing Returns, and it's actually kind of funny because it's kind of an ode to our rehearsals together on those Sunday mornings, because we would practice and practice and practice. And then Rob would say, I think we're to the point of diminishing returns. So that was our cue to stop practicing for the morning. So I decided to title the piece Diminishing Returns, and what you're going to hear is kind of like a journey of what starts with compliance, to comply to something, to pay your bills, to keep gas in the car, to get winter tires, right? To everything we do in life to comply, and then you're going to see it just slowly start to tear itself apart and see exploration and improvisation, and then of course going back to compliance because we all have jobs and lives, right? So it's called Diminishing Returns, and I hope the speakers are ready. That one looks like it's on. Please enjoy. Thank you.
drum line.
There's always stuff to move in a percussion concert, even if there's just two people playing. So we're down to the last two pieces. We have a marimba solo coming up. This is by Gordon Stout. It's called 4 Episodes for Solo Marimba. And it's 4 separate movements, short movements. And each one is very different from the other. The first one is sort of like a dance. The second one is a very flowing piece. The third one is kind of like a march, but like a twisted kind of march. And the fourth one that I particularly enjoy, it's kind of like an itch that just won't go away. There's this motif that just keeps coming back, dissonant motif that keeps coming back all the way to the end of the piece. And the itch is never, it's sort of resolved, but it never really is. Please enjoy 4 episodes from marimba. brings us to one last piece this evening. Before I introduce the last piece, I want to, even though they're mentioned in the program, I want to thank a couple of people. I'd like to especially thank Dr. Kingen and the IUP music department and faculty for supporting this endeavor. Dr. Kingen was also gracious enough, although he helped set up this hall for us and so forth. He also invited us to play a little over a week ago for the percussion studio. So that was our first of 4 performances that we did in the last 9 days or so, performing for the IUP Percussion Studio, which for 2 IUP alumni means a lot. So thank you, Dr. Kingen. I don't know if you're in the audience tonight, but thank you so much. Also like to thank Zach Karcher has been mentioned, but it doesn't hurt to mention again. As Scott said, my truck had broken down right before we went on the road, and the van was definitely a tour saver, so thank you very much. Also, we played at the Armstrong School District, so I'd like to thank even though we're not there tonight, it was part of this tour, so thanks for all of their support there at Armstrong also. The last piece we're playing is Marimba Spiritual 2. There was a original Marimba Spiritual 1, written by Minoru Miki, which is written for marimba soloist, which is the same in both arrangements. And the difference is in the Marimba Spiritual 2 version, there's just one percussionist, and in the original there are 3 percussionists. So there are a variety of instruments on the stage here, all going to be played by one person here as Scott plays the solo. The interesting thing about this performance and just preparing this is that in the spring I have a taiko group and a percussion ensemble at Armstrong, and 3 of my students are going to replace me, and we're going to play the Marimba Spiritual 1 while Scott is our guest artist in April at Armstrong. That's going to be pretty exciting to do. So without further ado, thank you for coming out tonight, and this is Marimba Spiritual 2. thank you so much for coming out tonight. We had a blast. Hopefully you did too.